Alright, so Hagoromo is one of those characters that doesn't get much screen time, and he has his story told by a lot of other people and in the data books. But when you really read these things, you figure out how much of a goat Hagoromo is and how overpowered he is. I know he gets underrated a lot. He's probably one of the most underrated characters in the series, but that's only because a lot of people really just misunderstand what happened with him, and they just quote things that don't really mean certain things. But yeah, we're gonna get into exactly how underrated he is. So the first thing I want to get out of the way is this super misinterpreted statement that a whole lot of people use but don't really even understand. Here is Hagoromo telling Naruto that Kaguya was more powerful than any other. Now people say that, yeah, this means that Kaguya obviously would be Hagoromo, but it's not really talking about prime Hagoromo. It's talking about Hagoromo pre-Jinchuriki. Now, obviously, before you become a Jinchuriki, you're going to be a lot weaker compared to when you become a Jinchuriki, right? So the version of Hagoromo that Kaguya is stronger than really just doesn't matter. It's irrelevant compared to Prime Hagoromo. Another statement that a lot of people use for Hagoromo is a statement about Madara getting Ten Tails power and getting close to his power. But if you paid attention to the statement that we just went over, this statement is a lot like that one. When Hagoromo says Madara is getting close to his power, he's referring to the power he has in his ghost form, not the power he had in his prime as the full Ten Tails Jinchuriki. So this is just really another case of people misinterpreting things, and you just really have to just read to make sure that you understand the full context of things. Alright, so now that I went over that, I'm going to go over why Hagoromo in his prime should be the strongest in Shippuden. And the main reason is because he's the Ten Tails Jinchuriki. It should be obvious. We know in Shippuden that the Ten Tails was stated to be Kaguya fused with the Divine Tree. Zetsu confirms this too to Naruto and Sasuke. I know the anime showed Kaguya and the Ten Tails as separate people, but the manga specifically shows us that they're one. So since Hagoromo is the Jinchuriki of the Ten Tails, and the Ten Tails is Kaguya plus the Divine Tree, then it makes sense that Hagoromo as the Ten Tails Jinchuriki would beat Kaguya and be the strongest. Now, I know some people, they try to say that Kaguya from the past probably wouldn't scale to the Kaguya from the War Arc, and Kaguya from the past is like fodder, or something might be weaker than Madara. But Hagoromo confirms that Kaguya from the past is at least multiple tiers above Jupiter. And at minimum, we need to consider that Kaguya, her goal in the War Arc, was to recover all of her lost chakra. And it wouldn't make sense that she, in the War Arc, she would be stronger than compared to her past whenever she had the chakra. So it kind of just really wouldn't make sense. And we also have to consider the Geto statue. We know Madara lived off chakra from the Geto statue, which means that the chakra, there actually have to be some in the Geto statue. And Kurama said that Hagoromo actually had the Geto statue within him. So when you factor in everything, Hagoromo as the Ten Tails Jinchuriki is stronger than the Ten Tails, and the Ten Tails is Kaguya fused with the Divine Tree, and Kaguya from the past should be stronger than Kaguya from the War Arc, and the Divine Tree from the past should probably be more powerful than the Divine Tree we see in the War Arc, because it's the Divine Tree before chakra was absorbed by Madara. So Hagoromo in his prime should just really be a beast. That just shouldn't even be debated. Another thing Hagoromo has going for him besides his power is his hacks. We know from Jiraiya that Hagoromo is thought to have been the originator of all jutsu. Hagoromo is confirmed in both the manga and the databooks to be a master of yin-yang release, and because of that, he can use the creation of all things jutsu. And we know from Obito that the Izanagi is considered a practical application of creation of all things jutsu. And to me, that kind of implies that Hagoromo, with creation of all things, he might be able to do something similar to Izanagi. He also has a Keke Mora Rinnegan, I know they barely go over what Kekemura is, but he does have a Kekemura Rinnegan, which is stated to be like, well, it's obviously a lot better than a Sharingan. So Hagoromo's potential Izanagi like ability he could use because of creation of all things, that could be pretty broken. And he also obviously he created like the tail beast with creation of all things. He created their bodies and their souls. So the jutsu in itself would just be broken. Like it's obviously depicted to just be godlike. And outside of Hagoromo's abilities, we know he has godly weapons like the sword of Nunoboku. And that sword is stated to be powered by your willpower. And because of that, it really should have like limitless power. Like it should be able to keep growing with your will. And in the war arc, we know it broke only because Obito, like, he was changing, he was gonna be good again. He wasn't like sticking with what he was doing. But Hagoromo, he wouldn't be as emotional as Obito would be. So he would be able to utilize the sword, and it would probably be like really broken with Hagoromo. And we know he had like a bunch of other tools too that popped up in the war arc, and they're stated in the data book to like let its user surpass the Gokage. So obviously, if he had the tools in his hands, it would probably be like really dangerous if he had them. Like he could use them to their most, and he could probably low diff a lot of people if we're being realistic. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up here. I definitely think Hagoromo is like really underrated, and he's probably like the strongest in Shippuden, given everything that we know. I mean, Naruto and Sasuke literally had to team up to defeat Kaguya, like a weakened Kaguya, and Hagoromo in his prime as the Jubi Jinchuriki, he should just be outright stronger than her. With his power and abilities and his weapons, I definitely think he's has to be up there. Like really, he has to be up there, and downplaying him just kind of takes away from the plot of the series. But yeah, that's it.